race, corruption, violence, greed, and murder. It have Cherokee County, and something that New York City will never have. They have me.
Are we back out? That was Longmire, a TV show on A&E, and it's based on a New York Times best-selling book series right here. And The Serpent's Tooth is the newest book in this series. There you go. Our author, Craig Johnson, joins us now to tell us about how this all got started and the genesis behind the book. Audience. So, Craig, tell us a little bit. So, to kick things off, how did this start? You were doing what, and you had an idea for a story?
Well, I live in Ucross, Wyoming, population 25, like that, and so I cowboy ranched a lot, like that. But you know, like I had my education was actually in writing, like that, and I think the way it started is the way it starts with every other writer. You run out of excuses, is what happens. And I had an idea about a story, and this sheriff in this least populated county in the least populated state in America, and I thought, you know what, maybe this will work. And so I sat down, I wrote the first book, and it got picked up by Viking Penguin, and they're the ones that sat down and talked me into writing as a series. They thought, people are going to want to know more about these characters and the relationships and that type of thing. And so I started in like that, and we made it on the Times list a number of years now, like that, and Warner Brothers got in touch with us, and pretty soon they were filming.
Wow. Let me ask you about Longmire himself, because the actor, Robert Taylor, just epitomizes everything that we love in a man of conviction, power, quietness, take charge, that kind of... Is there a person in your life that you molded that character?
Well, now, dear, first I have to ask you a question. Why is it whenever a woman asks me a question about the books or the TV show, the first thing they do is ask me about Robert Taylor? Why is that?
Because that's what's making it a big success.
It is. It's even worse than you think. When he auditioned for the part, they actually sent me the DVDs, to see the auditions. Yeah. And I got the DVDs, and my wife and I are sitting there in the kitchen at the ranch, back in Wyoming, and I put the DVD in like that, and Robert Taylor comes on like that, and I'm looking at him, and I'm thinking, boy, he looks like a Wyoming sheriff. He looks like a big guy, like it looks like he can handle himself. And I'm looking at him and thinking I kind of like him. And then all of a sudden, the voice behind me, my wife, I hear her go, "Oh my!" And I turn around and look at her, and she goes, "He's handsome."
Ding, 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 ding.
Yeah. And then she goes, "He's kind of like a TV version of you, taller, better looking, with a better voice."
Okay, so did you mold this character out off of somebody in your past or anybody that you'd ever known that you admire?
With books, it's always a question of like being a little bit of a Dr. Frankenstein. You take bits and pieces of different people that you know, like that, and put them all together to make the character that you want. I mean, rarely do you bump into the perfect person, to be the character in your books.
But you're writing fiction, but you're writing about what you know.
I am. Well,
I mean, this is your country. This is your life.
Wallace Stegner had the greatest thing to say about that at the beginning of writing and teaching fiction. He said, the biggest piece of fiction ever written is that disclaimer that's at the beginning of every book that says nobody in this book is based off of anybody alive.
Right.
What a crock that is. I mean, that's your job, is to go out and find, the perfect people.
Interesting people.
And that's what's so wonderful about writing about the American West is because, it's not, everybody's not normal or average. It's not like the suburbs of Chicago or something. You really do find people that are kind of like out there in that frontier area, like that, especially, like in Wyoming, where you only have 500,000 people, in the 9th largest state. Like that.
And they're not concerned with what other people think.
No, not at all.
They just live their life and their own values.
Absolutely.
So are you comfortable, Craig, with the adaptation that A&E has done? Is it a very honest and close adaptation of your written work?
I am. I think that they've done a pretty miraculous job of, of covering the tone and the feel, of what it is like to be up there in that Wyoming, Montana region. The only difficulty they've got is that 42-minute limit. I mean, man alive, you guys on TV, you don't get any leeway, do you?
What's really been interesting is this shift from movies, because stuff like this might not get made in a movie theater, but it get made on television, and all the good writers are going to television.
It's amazing.
Because it really is about writing.
There's more cutting-edge stuff going on television now like that, because, I mean, each episode of Longmire, I think it takes about $6 million to make. To me, that's a big chunk of change.
Wow.
But, most major feature films, you're talking hundreds of millions of dollars.
Well, they're sure not spending it on cars. I mean, that old ratty pickup truck that he drives, where's that $6 million going?
That's Walt all over. He's kind of old school, like that. And then I knew they were kind of serious whenever I showed up on the first day they were filming the pilot, and there was a car transporter there that had 6 identical Ford Broncos, loaded up on there. And I turned to Chris Howell, the stunt coordinator, and I said, "Why do we have 6 of them?" And he goes, "Oh, we're going to wreck 1 or 2 the first day."
Sure.
I've got to ask one more question, and I don't mean to but I'm so excited to be with you. So are the episodes that are coming up, are they brand new stories that you've written just for television, or are you taking them from your 19 novels?
No, what they've done, like, and they're only 9 novels. Like,
Oh, 9.
Don't give me more credit than I
Okay.
deserve here. Like, but
19 coming.
What they do is a lot of the times, I mean, the season episode that started up this season was actually taken from the 7th book, Hell is Empty. But it's difficult for them because, I've got, as many pages as I want, 400 pages or so, like that, but they've got 42 minutes. So what they do is they kind of pick and choose which points, like that it is that they want to try and, assimilate in the piece. And it's tough. Like, it's really
It is
tough.
Are you writing the screenplays?
No, actually, what I'm doing is I'm reviewing. Is what I'm
Yes,
doing.
you
Like
are.
what they do is they send me the synopsis for each episode, and then I tell them, yeah, this will work. Yeah, this would be a sheriff's jurisdiction in Wyoming, or no, you can't do that with the Northern Cheyenne Reservation, and things like that. Then they write the episode. They have a room full of writers down at
What
Warner
about
Brothers.
the dialogue? 'Cause it's so good.
Well, some they take from my books. I'm proud to say, like that. But then a
Oh,
lot of it's their own. A lot of it's
There's probably a feature in there for you. Yeah. That's after you exhaust.
I know
all of it.
you're on this tour. You told us to promote this book. So
Yes.
tell us quickly what happens in this book.
Well,
What's it
this
about?
one is a little bit different than all the others. Like, I mean, all of the books, are generally, the catalyst for each one of the books has generally been a newspaper article or a news feature that I've seen that, is something that, it's going to be, what that does is it keeps the books grounded in the reality of small town American West. I don't ever want Walt chasing Al Qaeda in Crook County or
Good.
Walt on a cruise ship or any of that kind of foolishness. So what I do is I tend to look at, some of those news pieces like that and see, okay, well, I can take that and I can make that a Walt story.
Yeah.
And what I was reading about were these lost boys, these polygamy splinter fundamentalist groups where they take these young teenage boys and they kind of kick them out. Warren Jeffs kind of stuff. And so they kind of kick them out. Well, here are these young men. They don't have any resources. They don't have any abilities to take care of themselves. And I thought, what if one of these young men was to show up in Absaroka County, Wyoming? How would Walt deal with that? And where would it lead
show
to?
up in
that's
his
a
world.
great
Yeah.
story.
That's a great idea.
That is a great
Obviously,
story.
he's not going to go off to Downton Abbey.
Not anytime soon.
Oh, last question. In the town of 24, did you take yourself to the prom?
I didn't, but it was very good of you to notice it's 24 today and not 25.
Yeah.
But my wife is with me, so it's only 23.
Okay.
So.
Listen,
Craig Johnson.
And if I were his wife, I wouldn't let him go anywhere without me.
Oh, and we like
No,
the
she
hat.
likes Robert Taylor. Like, remember?
Like the hat as well. Craig is signing books tonight at the Barnes & Noble in Dallas at Northwest Highway, the big Barnes & Noble on Northwest Highway and 75, and that's across the street from North Park Mall. Craig, thanks for coming in.
Oh,
today.
that was
Fantastic.
so
Really enjoyed
wonderful.
Thanks for having me.
And we're going to see Craig tomorrow on the broadcast.
Oh, is that
Looking
right?
forward to it.
Yes.
He's coming back.
My favorite times have been
Okay.
with 4 different women. So.
Beware.
Okay.
Beware.
Okay.